everybody. Yay! Yay, we're on. I'll let you know my neighbor at 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning. Just so happened I showed up here. Guess who's getting ready for work? So I'm actually enjoying the fact that I'm all ready for the day and doing my Zazoo report. And he's got to go to work. He's got to go out in the freezing cold and take the highway into Hartford for his job. I think he works at the Children's Hospital because I saw it on his car. But I'm kind of enjoying the fact that I can just sit here in my nice warm apartment and have hot cocoa. After this, my paleo hot chocolate with my rice cake, cashew butter, and my little marshmallows on it. Then I have cranberries, dried cranberries on the side. It's a weird little snack, but it kind of motivates me because I can only have it after I do my Zazoo report. So here we go. Welcome. I got new socks. Look at this. I got these. Where did I get these? Oh, job lot. Ocean Sleep job lot. What is that? Somebody's leaving. All the kid Gen Zs are leaving for work. I did that. And now I have my own business, so I stay here. And I don't have to do that anymore. Anyway, welcome. I'm not going to go over because, we all have to pay our dues, and it's, he's got a good job. He's fine. But my goal is to get a place where I don't have somebody squeaking and stomping on my head all damn day. That's my goal. So I'm working toward that. But in the meantime, this is what we have to work with. Me and Zazoo. Leslie here, Leslie Plazz and Zazoo Plazz. As usual, Sunday, actually it's Monday morning, the 13th of January, 2025. But this, as usual, I talk about the energy of yesterday and the scripture readings, and then I pull in astrology, and today is the full moon in Cancer. So, there's going to be a lot of talk today and songs about the Cancer sign that deals with like home, family, mother, nurturing, comfort, being vulnerable with our feelings and putting ourselves out there, and then having to kind of run and climb back into our shell. And Cancer happens to be where my midheaven is, in my 10th house. Now the 10th house is career, so I'm opposite the signs. I have Capricorn, which is the ambitious sign, in my 4th house of family and home, and I have Cancer, which is the nurturing home sign, in my midheaven, which is my out in the world careers, house. So no wonder when I realized that, I said, that explains so much. Anyway, and my mother had the same houses that I did. She had Libra ascendant too, which is your 1st house. So she was slightly different because sometimes the houses, they don't line up. But, so I had Capricorn in the 3rd and the 4th house, which is tough as a kid because that means that, my growing up, my mother was the CEO of the house. She should have been out running a Fortune 500 company. My mother's a Capricorn, and she was not only a multitasker, she was bored out of her mind as a housewife and a mother, even though she just had me, because she was into everything. She was into, she wanted world dominate. She wanted to rule the world. So, but she found herself, in the generation, Pluto and Cancer, that, women just, she was a top legal secretary, which in the 60s, late 50s, when she got out of college, 59, 60s. She was pop. She was smart, and she worked in law. She worked for some top law firms, in the Hartford area, Hartford, Connecticut here. She had to disguise herself as a secretary, but really, she kept some of these guys, on track. She was the brains, the soul of the operation there, mostly the brains. You know, she and my dad just wanted to do his thing. He was into music, and he just wanted to go and play in the computer and come home, and she had everything all clean. And then of course, she was supportive of my dad's career, but she had her own goals and things that she wanted to do. But she made some sacrifices, and what she would do is, she had her inner world, her astrology, her, I guess you could say higher world. But I took notes, and part of me, this is kind of where the concept of my book comes from. I just want to talk about this today because I don't have anything to show or tell. Um, but I'm doing a lot of reflecting on, what's my message, and it's refined quite a bit since I started. But I think it's the fact that, um, yeah, it's that midheaven that's nurturing. So I'm full time mom, but then part time superhero actually comes in, where um, that's the thing I do that nobody else sees, like my work that's kind of secret, kind of like, Wonder Woman gets called up, when there's a crisis, or she's flying in her invisible plane and nobody can see her. It's kind of like me. Now, this ties into the readings today. It really does. And I didn't know that until just now. It's the baptism of Jesus Sunday in the Catholic readings that I use. Um, and I draw that in, and I sort of morph it with pop culture songs. There's a song, and it all ties together neatly with a little bow at the end. And I've been doing this for a while, so I think I kind of get, my nose is running. I kind of get better at it. But I do this, I almost, I almost want to say that regardless of how many followers I have, I feel like I'm making a powerful statement just by showing up every week, because I've got my stuff together, people. And sooner or later, when people see that I've been showing up for, five going on 5 years, doing this every Sunday, once a week, and posting every day on my Facebook page, they will begin to see that, I really do have my stuff together, and I'm not just spouting off or hiding behind AI or whatever. I'm the real deal, you know, and I'm a Gen Xer. And that's, a lot of us, you know, we, I want to be authentic. I just want to be myself. You know, I don't want to conform to what somebody says I should be or live up to somebody's expectations of me. I'm just making it up as I go along. But I have a lot of notes. Nothing, no failure I've ever had or success in my life has gone unnoted by the higher realms. And such it is with all of us. They've kept notes. You know, you shouldn't be afraid, okay? Shouldn't be afraid of what's going on earth or underneath behind the scenes. Those people are not, those people, they're, okay, they're grasping at straws trying to get your, attention. Where you really should pay your attention is they're up there. They're taking notes. And that's where we're all going to have to answer when all this is played out, this big play that we're all in, right? We're all actors. Anyway, that's my little spiel rant for the day. Got a new sweater too. And then I found this cool pink shirt that also goes with these jeans. So that's what I do, folks. I digress. I do that. But I go to Savers and I might find a sweater, right? And then I find a couple of short sleeve t-shirts and a couple of long sleeve ones because I noticed that the sleeves don't go all the way down to and, and my wrists get cold. It's like my ankles get cold. So I said, well, I'll just get this shirt, put this underneath, and I'll keep my wrist warm. Because I like stripes, if you can't tell, and I like playing with colors. Because when I was a kid, in the 70s and 80s, I had a lot of stripes and diagonal, geometric shapes. That's what we did, and we layered stuff. You know, I put a picture of me and my first boyfriend, Jay, and were his initials. Um, it was 1983. So we both have it was like January. So we both had nice sweaters on and like preppy, those button down shirts underneath. They're not buttoned, but sure, you wore, a nice shirt and a sweater, guys and girls. I mean, a lot of us girls, we dressed like guys in the early to mid 80s. We wore like shirts with blazers and like a tie, you take like a scarf and knot it. It was menswear. Menswear was the look. Not like we were trying to be men, but if you look at the way we dressed in the 80s, um, I had a lot of like for work and for everything had freaking shoulder pads. See, we went around looking like linebackers, double-breasted suits with buttons like military, thing, and um, we had the blouses tied with a big bow, and everything was big hair, big, we had to go out in business looking like, we had to, and a lot of this was, you know, the boomers. And, I'm going to be kind here because I realize that whatever I put out here is a reflection of myself, you know. Um, but I'm just observing here a lot of what, they did, like they went out in the workforce before us, us early Gen Xers, and they had been out there the whole 80s by the time we got out of college. So when I went in, I was working for, or, working for, well, all boomers, or working with some. They were all ahead of me, all, not necessarily, they were all my bosses, and some of them were women, you know. And so I had to fall in line until I realized, this is just too much. This is exhausting. Because trying to, match their energy, and they had been, they weren't ceding control or helping us, get a leg up. They were, you know, they were in there, and they all got in there early, and like in state service, they all got their, you know, top tier plans and all their, benefits, and they got in there. And so when we come straggling out of college, I said, this isn't gonna work, because I couldn't get anywhere being like them. And I couldn't get any support from my fellow, especially the women. So I just said, I said to my mom, I said, you know what? I can't be like you and stay home and, just because I'm too bored. I have, you know, intellectual skills here. And I was jumping at the bit, and I said, and I can't go into my dad's world because, he was in programming, and I said, no, that's not the future. I said, I want to do this, PC stuff. I want to, do graphic interfaces and things in the early 90s. That was the precursor of the internet. So I said, I can take from both of their experiences, but I can't, I'm going to have to forge my own path here. I said, I'm following the boomers, but I'm not. I'm following my parents, but I'm not. All right. So I'm going to have to, so the part-time superhero was me, trying to find my own path, trying to forge my own way in a world that, you know, there was a path, but every time I try to go for it, I get kicked out. I get thrown off the mountain. Anyway, that's that's going to be in my next book. Fear not, that story. It's not the only time I got kicked out of somewhere, unappreciated, undervalued, until I started valuing myself. Now that's when the real fun starts. When you start valuing yourself and the contributions you uniquely have to offer the world. So anyway, full moon Cancer. You had me thinking about all those things. And then, our thoughts have been with the people in LA this week, with the fires and everything. And my son, who's a forest firefighter, I texted him right away. My dad texted me. He's like, is Zach going out? Is he getting sent out? Because he's with the state crew in Connecticut. They got sent out to Oregon last summer. And, I had texted my son right away. I said, you going out? Because he said, no, Mom. He's like, I really wish that we could. But he said his bosses said that the fire had, and once it gets to a developed area and it starts, it's dealing with homes and people and stuff, it's very tricky. So, he's, of course, hopeful and, sending prayers and wishes for the safety of everyone out there, and the of course the responders and firefighters, because it's got to be exhausting, to be on all the time like that, and dealing with the frustration of not having the water, which is what we're touching on. It's ironic because it's full moon in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign, right? And they're having trouble. It brings up a lot of emotion, because water is what's needed, right? Put out the fire. So I thought about all these things, and I said, so yeah, bottom line, my son isn't going out there. If it had just been, in the outlying forest or land, or, the valleys, they could have, gone out. But, it's pretty tightly packed. They can go from above and drop the water, which is, I hear what they've been doing. So, on to the readings of the week. Ironically, the baptism of Jesus on full moon in Cancer. I can't make this stuff up. Isaiah, is my chosen one, the servant, justice to all nations. So, talking about the chosen one, not shouting, which is air, right? Air, quiet. Not breaking the fragile reed, bruised reed, that's earth, right? Not quenching the smoldering wick, which is fire. Isn't that ironic? Until there's justice on earth. The smoldering wick will not be quenched until there is justice on earth. Wow. And this is Isaiah in the Old Testament, right? This is what they picked for the reading today. It talks about, I formed you as a light for the nations, to open the eyes of the blind and free prisoners in the dark. That's the 12th house, Virgos, rules prisons and dark, places. So that's interesting. It talks about give comfort to my people, right? Every mountain may be made low. Wow, mountain. And yeah. So then we have the psalm. The Lord's voice is over the waters. He blesses people with peace. So we have water, we have mountains, we have peace. And then we're talking about the Lord clothed in majesty and glory. So all this is setting us up for the baptism of Jesus, right? Isaiah was a prophet. A long time ago, the Psalms are just songs, basically, poems, that you sing. So all this was in the old times that predicted what was going to happen in the New Testament, right? This is what I used to tell my kids when I taught CCD. Trying to make it simple, not simple-minded, but simple, easy, you know, because it's hard to put things into words that are of a spiritual nature, even for us adults, right? Everybody's going to hear it differently. So that's why I leave things open to interpretation. All right. So here we go. Um, okay. You've constructed your palace upon the waters. Palace. It sounds like palisades. You make the winds your messengers. That's angels. Right? Los Angeles. These are just my theories. This is just things that I put together, and I don't mean anything by them and take them with a grain of salt. But these are, I look for comfort in things like scripture, right? I look, and these are the chosen readings for the week. I didn't go looking for them, they were right there. And I interpret them in terms of my filter, my astrology, just my observations. That's all this is. Next week I'll think something different. Anyway, um, and I usually don't look to current events that much, but this is kind of relevant. Um, you make the winds your messenger, the flaming fire your ministers. Take breath. Oh, if you take people's breath, you turn to dust. Give them the spirit, they will be created and renewed. So, so we have, yeah. So we have Saint Peter in the Acts of the Apostles this week. Now that happened after Jesus died, the Acts of the Apostles, right? They're all the disciples are trying to figure out what's going to happen since Jesus died. So Peter is at Cornelius's house. Cornelius was they say the first Gentile to convert to Christianity. He was a Roman centurion too. So, uh, so Peter says God is not partial, right? That any nation that wants to, who fears God and wants to act, in His ways, um, you know, can be accepted by God. So, um, so and then you talk about, how just these are the things. These, you know, um, after Jesus was baptized, how He went about healing everybody, and God was with it. So He's saying, okay, now we have to do, He said, you guys were with me. You saw, everything that went down. So this is what we have to keep doing. Okay, He's saying we have to live with temperance, justly, not excessively. Live simply, down to earth. Have hope, right? And so I don't think that's relevant, right? So in other words, not putting, all of your attention on material things, but rather things of, the things of heaven, godly things, spirit, letting the spirit ignite in you that which is your purpose on earth. Not being enslaved by, the search and acquisition of things that tie you down, but rather free yourself to create, yourself as the person God made you to be. So that's what I get out of it. And we have the book, Luke chapter 3, where everybody knows where Jesus got baptized by John the Baptist, and he put the water and the dove came down and all that stuff. That John said he wasn't worthy, and Wayne's World, and then the heavens open and the dove comes down. I tried to draw a dove; it didn't come out very well. It kind of looked like a chicken, but we're not talking about my artistic talents here. So then you hear God's voice. This is my beloved son, with whom I am well pleased. You can see it. It's like a little. You can see the heavens opening. This little birdie coming down. There were some times I was outside and little birdie came down on me, but he left a big white spot, flew off. Anyway, one time he stole my clam cake. I have had run-ins with birds. They haven't really fluttered down and skies open. But you know, I am a mere mortal. Anyway, so this song of the week, it's got banjo in it. Now that was really cool to me. It's a lot of songs that had banjo in them I liked because I played the banjo, but not in '72. I was only 6 when this song came out. Doobie Brothers, who I didn't know what that name meant because I was only 6, but listen to the music. And this came out. It was hmm, July '72. I was going into second grade. It was the summer before second grade, I guess. Yeah. So this got to number 11 on the Billboard, November 1972, when I turned 7. So 11, 7. All right. Uh, and it was released on their second album, Toulouse Street. So they're from the San Jose area, California. So that's another reason I picked them because they're a California band. Um, it was their first major hit, and they said it was a utopian call for world peace. So I thought, peace, dove, you know, water, because they're from uh, California. It's on the ocean. Um, One of the guys in the band said it was unrealistic, uh, and as I would think too. But at the time, he thought, well, if only the world leaders, just go hang out on this hill, just smoke and listen to music. And this is definitely a boomer song. Just saying, it's kind of typical of how I, as a Gen Xer, looked upon the boomers. I would draw them in my notebooks, with the big pants, with the long hair, and the guitar. In my Zazoo brain, those were, and people didn't call them boomers. They were just, what they were the teenagers at the time when I was a little kid. Teenagers and, like my cousins and adults. Well, they weren't really adults till maybe, I don't know, late '70s, early '80s. But to me, they were just the older kids, like much older people, hippies. My parents called them hippies. They weren't boomers. And then in the '80s, they became yuppies. So then it was yuppies, right? And so, we were always the little kids. We weren't Gen X. We were the baby bust. And then we were slackers. And we were always in their shadow, not complaining. I'm just telling you how it was. They weren't boomers until much later. Like, we weren't Gen X until the '90s, maybe even beyond. There wasn't that separation, right? Because we didn't have social media. They were just older, They were hippies, most of them, until they cut their hair off and all went to, take over the business world, and then they were yuppies. So there's this feeling I have, like, and he even admits it. One of the doers, he's like, that was pretty unrealistic to just think of, like to buy the world a Coke kind of thing. When I was a little kid, that commercial came out. I'm like, yeah, and then what? It's like this mellow adult contemporary music, right? It was all over the radio. So they got together during the COVID times, and they did like a little charity thing. So they're trying to do their thing, but um, yeah. But you know what? It's a feel good song. It's an uplifting song, and I still love their music, right? And that to me is a great contribution of the baby boom generation. Is definitely the music. We consumed it a little differently. I mean, we heard it on the radio, but not like they did. So anyway, I see my time is running out. So take care, listen to the music, and do what makes you feel good. You know what I mean. And I'll see you next week. Same place, different time. Bye bye.